Welcome to lesson 4 of Last Post. In this lesson we're going to do a nice... I'm so glad you joined me for another lesson, and if you haven't checked out the link below, all the workshop videos are there for free, as well as the sheet music that I've written up. In this lesson we're going to go from D to F. We've done this transition a few times. So this is very similar to what we did maybe back in lesson 2, so we're going to kind of spend a little time on this, then we'll move on to a new section, which is, we'll spend a little bit more time on that newer stuff. But we finish off that last lesson on D, then we go up to F, and we kind of have this slow bum, 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 bum. So we're on the F, up to high A, our top two fingers are off, thumb is off, back to F, and then back to, you guessed it, D. And then we're going to drop down to low A from there. So here we got, so far in this little section here. So that's that same little low A ending that we worked on before. So, you know, nothing too new in this little bit. And if you're a little bit lost where I'm at, we're on the third line, like the last third of the third line. And in the workshop link below, you can see I've mapped out, I've got an image of the music and I've mapped out where the lessons start and end. So you can always refer to that too if you're getting a bit lost. So this is what we got so far in this lesson. So this little bit with all these D's and grace notes, that's what we're going to spend the bulk of the time on here today. So we are on the low A. We've done our burl or our finger tap, and then we're going to do the two grace note sequence again on the low A, but no burl after these next two. So we're on to low A. So we're on low A, we do our one grace note, second grace note, we do our burl or finger tap with the pinky, and then we do our one grace note, two grace note, and then do we do our burl or finger tap? No! We go up to the D right away. So let me play that again so you make sure you have that. So that's how we get back up onto the D, okay? So we're on the D. We're going to do a grace note, top finger. And then after that grace note, it's a strike. And then up to F. And then right back to D again. If you're a bit confused on what's the fingering for D and F, I'm not going into it too much detail because you can find that back in lesson 1 and 2. So let me just play what we got so far in this lesson, starting way back on that D going to F. So we're on the D, we do the grace note, we do the strike. You heard there, I kind of let it slip out. You can do a doubling instead of that G grace note on the D if you'd like. That'd be the doubling option. Where's the doubling? What's that second grace note come from? It comes from the E finger. So first grace note top finger, second grace note E finger. So you could do that. If the doubling's a bit much, you could just stick with the G grace note. So either way will work. You'll hear I have trouble to tell that doubling finger not to fire. So you'll probably hear more doublings from me. But it's not too much harder because we're not transitioning anywhere. We're just hanging on that D when we play the doubling. So whatever way you decide with, do what works for you. There's the doubling version. Here's the grace note version. Either way, we're going to drop down to low A next. And we're going to drop down to low A and do a grace note. I do the D grace note. As I mentioned in the previous lesson, you can do a G grace note if you really want. You can make up the rules, it's allowed. Either way, you go down to low A, you do your grace note, and then you pop back up to D afterwards. And then we do the exact sequence we just walked through. So we do that same sequence. So we do that sequence, we go down to low A, grace note, we go up, we do that sequence. So let's just, before we move on, let's just put everything together from the start of this lesson. So last little bit to end on, to finish off this lesson, and then we got more of the tune in upcoming in lesson 5. But this little bit, we drop down to that low A again, and do that same grace note. I like the D grace note, top finger of the bottom hand. We pop up to D, but now we're going to do this little toggle back and forth from D to F to D to F. Da 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 da, and then we just hold that D. So I did a little slide there. So that's the little ending bit on this. Da 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 da. And there's not a lot of different notes here. Lots of Ds, lots of Fs, lots of low As, but there's just little nuances in each of these little versions that we've tackled on. So I'm going to play through this section that we worked on this lesson again, nice and slow so you can hear how it all sounds together. Let me restart here. And then that last D is actually a D that you hold for some time. So good luck with that. I'll see you in lesson 5, and you're going to get it. So keep at it and have some fun.